Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Darren Evans and this is BD Performance. This is going to answer a question that many of you probably haven't had the chance to ask yet, which is, what does it take to get over 700 horsepower? Now that's a really interesting question, and the first thing I would say to you is that what it takes to get to 700 horsepower or more is dedication, commitment, and a whole load of patience. Now I say that for very many reasons, because breaking that barrier over 500 horsepower is always frustrating no matter what. And if any of you have seen the comments online before regarding and surrounding various big horsepower cars, you'll know the frustrations that very many of those big power car owners have gone through, including the likes of Dean Lewis or Dean Finch, Grant Butler. They've all been there, all got that t-shirt and all had the frustration surrounding improving one part and then another part breaking. So in today's video, what we're going to do is go through just some of the costs associated with achieving your dream, what we recommend, how to get there. It's not going to be an exacting cost of any particular car. I've just got Nick's car in the background for an example. Now obviously we can't go into individual owners' breakdowns of what they've spent, so I'm just going to give you a budget idea. So with that being said, let's get into it. Let's start off with the most important part, the heart of the car. Now that's the engine. So you're going to need to fully forge your engine, and for anything over 500 brake horsepower, we'd recommend a set of cams. Now, depending on what level or what spec you're going to go to, we'd also recommend that you look at porting and polishing and balancing the bottom end to some extent, not dynamically balancing it, but just making it better set up and making sure that it's all weighted correctly. We'd also then recommend looking at porting and polishing of the cylinder head over 600 horsepower. Now, Nick's car has got a ported and polished cylinder head, along with, as you've seen in the previous videos, see the links up above and in the description, it's got a ported and polished head alongside the bigger valves. Now we achieved an extra 50 brake horsepower with that bigger valves against what it previously done. So that just shows you that that was actually good bang for buck. But let's get back to the main point, which is, what does it cost? Now bottom end on its own, a short motor, i.e. sump up to the cylinder head, can cost anywhere in the region of about £3,500, depending on whether you add liners and other varying factors, such as whether you use ARP bottom end studs. The cylinder head itself, with the bigger valves, can cost in the region of about £3,000. Now that does just depend on what level you go to. If you start adding liners to it, you can end up with anything up to £10,000 in the engine alone. Now what do you need to accompany that engine to make power? Now there's lots of things surrounding that. The most obvious is the turbocharger and the fuel system. Sidewinder or conventional setup, depending on the turbo size and the brand, you're looking at around about £5,000 to £7,000 for a full turbo setup. Now, in the case of Nick's car, he's got conventional setup. And by that, I mean that his turbocharger is in the same position as it would have been on a standard vehicle. Unlike others who run a Sidewinder. Now, we run a Sidewinder on Kerry's monstrous 830 brake horsepower RS, but Nick wanted that stock look in his engine bay. So that's why this is like this. Now, to accompany that, you've got to consider the fuel system. Now that incorporates both the injectors. In this case, we've got upwards of 1000 cc. I'm not going to tell you exactly in this video. You've got the external fuel system. Now this has got a brushless system. You can consider 044s. And then we've got the in-tank upgrade. Now those bits alone, you're looking at a starting price installed of about £2,500 to £3,000. So that's the big ticket items in terms of hardware that you would need alongside your original bits. Now don't get me wrong, There's other bits that you need to add in, obviously over and above what you would do for, let's say, a 500 brake horsepower build, but those are the big ticket items. Combined with that then, you're going to need to look at your engine management system. Now for over 700 horsepower, we'd recommend that you look at Syvex. I believe that the installation cost, supply and installation cost of that is circa £3,500. Again, there's other modifications that can be included, such as with 𝘔𝑥, which has got the toucan from JT Innovations. That's approximately another £500 plus installation. Now going back to the other key factors with 700 horsepower that you're going to need to look at. The plenum, the intercooler and the exhaust system. Now over and above that 500 horsepower, we really do recommend that you look at upgrading your downpipe to circa 3.5 or 4-inch system. Intercooler wise, you're going to need a big front mount intercooler and you're going to need the pipework to go with it. Again, that's specific to the turbocharger that you fitted to the vehicle. Next thing to consider, most certainly, is making sure that the vehicle will stop and handle. So in Nick's case, he's got a PB kit, as in the original Fat Boy. Quite suitable and apt for me, really, don't you think? Combined with that, we'd recommend at least Ferrado DS2500s or Pagid RSs. You could also consider other brands, but those are the top level that most people stick with. We've got handling mods that include BC Racing coilovers on this setup behind me for Nick, and also the bushes from Powerflex. Now this, as you will have seen in a video previously, has had a full underbody restoration. Can't get my words out this morning. So that means that we've replaced all the bushes and most of the bolts. We've replaced the tin underneath, and it looks, not only looks good, but it also means that you've got upgraded bushes. This stiffens up the ride and allows for the use of that additional power. Now, I say use of the additional power, when you get above 700 horsepower, these things are absolutely crazy animals, and you're never going to achieve absolute perfection in terms of driving, although the Syvex does manage it really well. Other things that you could consider on a 700 plus build would be an external oil cooler. These start from about £500 or £600. A breather kit, now I know that's controversial, but I'm going to mention it anyway. These start from about £600. You're then maybe going to look at upgrading the header tank to a motorsport version. Now we've got the Spec R version on Nick's car. That's in the region of about £600. When you add all this up, it adds up to a significant amount of money. And we haven't really delved into the depths of the exact cost of this specific build, because most people who are looking to upgrade to 700 horsepower will already be above 400 to 500 horsepower. So I'm not going to break down the exact costs of any one particular build. But as you can see, it all adds up. And there's more to consider than just the very, very basics. So what we're going to do is leave some links in the description below so that you can go and check out our website and have a look and actually build an engine for yourself, decide what the costs are. We'll leave some links into some of the manifolds and the turbocharger options that we do, alongside some of the other bits that we've mentioned in this video. But as I say, every car is unique, and to get over 700 horsepower is a long and drawn out process. There's so many different options. Be careful that you choose the right turbo, be careful that you choose the right spec of build, and decide where it is that you want to go in terms of value and in terms of power, so that you can set yourself a target, a budget, and try and stick within it. Otherwise, it's a long, slippery road and a bottomless pit. I'm getting into that. I've never been much of a dancer. I've also got a terrible memory, and because I'm not an absolute freak of nature, I don't know every single price off the top of my head. But what I am going to do is give you a little bit of a clue about what a budget build would cost. Now, when I say budget, I mean reasonably priced build would cost. So let's start off with the engine, 8 grand. Now that would include roughly a forged engine, liners, big valve head, and some porting and polishing. Bit of dynamic balancing, or not dynamic balancing should I say. I hate my life sometimes when I do this. Then you're going to have to cut some bits out. Let's move.
Since you're not going to cut anything, guys.
That's going to get just the top of your head. And you're going to look like even more of a weirdo than normal. Turbocharger, for instance, now for about 700 horsepower. Turbocharger, manifold, etc. and so forth. £5,100 upwards. Clutch, you're going to need to consider that for your transmission, drivetrain, etc. So if you take into account the clutch and the diff, budget about 2 grand. Oil cooler kit, now I mentioned that before, it's not necessary all the time, but if you're going on track, and let's face it, if you've got 700 horses, who wouldn't want to go on track? 750 quid. A breather kit. It's not always necessary, but you mainly find on these big power cars that they do run a breather system just to avoid any excess crankcase pressure. Oil breather kit, £750. Fuel system, we alluded to that earlier on. I'll break it down. So you've got external system, i.e. the system after the tank, that's 1650, and the in tank from about 600 quid. Now the in tank acts as a lifter pump to the swirl pot, so you're going to need that so that it all keeps up. Injectors, it depends what size, but from about £500–600. Cyvex, we've already covered that one off, about £3,500, along with a toucan installed from about £700. The unit itself is from about £500. Gobstopper intercooler, £750. Radiator, £550. Now all these prices are pretty much fitted. So you can obviously understand that if you were doing this as a package, then these prices wouldn't be that much more expensive to get them fitted at the same time. So that's how I've priced this up. If you went for a budget plenum, you'd be looking at about £300 for an AirTech or AS1. Induction kit and associated, from about £500. Now by that I mean the actual induction system that's on the vehicle, the crossover in some instances, like this one with our own custom crossover, or if you had a sidewinder, then obviously you just have the cone on the end of it. Silicone hoses from about £400. Bushes from about £1,500. Suspension setup, if you start off at the mid-range where we like to be, which is the BC Racing, you're looking at suspension and setup around £1,000. Let's get on to the final little bits. Exhaust system, now catback and the modified downpipes, etc. Don't shoot me, but from about £1,500. Now that's because I've allowed for a screamer pipe and the other little bits that you need. Then finally we can end up with something to stop you. Now brake kits start from about £1,200 for a set of case bolts for the front with some decent pads. And I say from £1,200, and I really do mean from £1,200. That's not including installation, so allow another £200 to £300 for proper installation of case bolts, setting up the rotors on the actual bells themselves and any braided lines. So probably make that £1,500. All that totals up to about £32,000 to £34,000. Now that's for a reasonable build. Don't stick to that. Build your own on the website. Give us a call if you want a tailored quote. If you're interested, then we'd be more than happy to talk to you. But that's just a budget figure for around about £700. Not sure why I'm still holding this. It can go over there because I'm not going to use it again. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope this has entertained you and also educated you. If you've enjoyed the video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And let us know in the comments down below what content, God almighty, why can't I get my words out, what content you'd like to see in the future, and we'll try and bring that to you. But for now, see you again soon. Cheers, guys.
Not going to put your fingers?
No. I'm going to pick up this piece of paper off this thing off the floor.